Every so often, an interesting topic comes across my For You page on TikTok, and this is one I see more and more recently. Unsolicited criticism. I've got a lot to say, so get cozy, everyone. Why do artists dislike unsolicited criticism so much? In short, doesn't everyone dislike unwanted advice, unsolicited criticism? Anyone in a creative field can tell you they get it a little more often than others. After all, art is subjective, and once someone sees something that isn't to their preferences, automatic distaste is experienced. Way too many people think that because an artist posted something, that's a free pass for them to be blatantly rude or just assume so much about the artist. Like they must be wanting to improve if they're posting their art online. And thus they give a bunch of unwanted criticism. Now, to start, there are a few different kinds of unwanted criticism, but ultimately they just come across as, you didn't do very well, you should do better. The most common one artists come across is the lazy critique, which I'm gonna call that for lack of a better word because I myself am lazy. This is when they just point out a flaw but never elaborate. The most common ones I used to get when I was starting drawing was, that eye looks weird. You should pick another color scheme. I don't like green. Or the best one, are you ready? I bet you've never heard it before. You should practice more. It's just lazy and passive aggressively says, oh, you're not very good at this, are you? Really, that's the best they can do, is point out things that they can't offer advice on, or they don't want to offer advice on. Usually it's from non-artists, but it can totally be from artists too. Another type of unwanted criticism sort of builds on this lazy type, but it's more of a subjective criticism. It's the I don't like green criticism. It's easier to ignore for a lot of creatives, I think, because it's usually directed at the style that the artist uses. I've never experienced it myself, but you hear about like art teachers who grade students more harshly when they don't like their work. While style isn't an excuse for ignoring all critique, mind you, it's important to take subjective criticisms with a grain of salt. If an artist who draws very stylized portraits were criticized by a hyper-realism artist and were told, oh, you need to do more realistic proportions of human faces, you should really do some figure studies, it's not necessarily useful to the stylistic portrait artist. In fact, I would argue it's completely irrelevant to them. Lastly, there's destructive criticism, and we all know that one, I think. Comments saying, this art is gross, you suck at drawing. Why would you subject my eyes to this? You should leave the internets. Like, obviously they're trolls and they should be blocked. It's, really, if you don't like the art, there's the door. The more time you spend here on this page, engaging with art you don't like, the algorithm's just going to show you more because the algorithm thinks you like it. So the only reason you're seeing this art is because you insist on staying. The next piece in this unsolicited critique puzzle is the artist himself. There are a lot of types of artists, but let's just focus on the veteran artist versus the new artist. A veteran artist has been drawing for a long time. They're more likely to be adults because, they have that much life experience, that much time has been spent drawing. They're more confident in themselves as an individual, and therein more confident in themselves as an artist. They've spent enough time working on their fundamentals and being objective with the areas they need to improve in. Having the experience in drawing, the longer you draw, you do develop a style. You find what style you want to do. You learn about all the different types of art and which art helps you portray what you wish to portray. There's animation, there's comic art, there's game design, there's so many choices. And by the time you've been drawing for a while, or sculpting for a while, or dancing for a while, you know what you want to do with your art. You know what your purpose is, what your reason for art is. In contrast, a newer artist they're in their discovery stage. They've just been born. They're probably doing their craft every day and just loving every second of it. Maybe they haven't quite nailed down a style yet, but they're ready to share their art, find communities to be a part of, make friends, and keep doing their art. Depending on how early they start posting their art online, they may not know where their weak points are. They may be completely aware. Again, they might not have a style or a goal or reason or purpose for their craft, but they have passion and they love doing it, and that's all that matters at this moment in time for them. When a veteran artist encounters unwanted criticism, their experience is able to help them ignore that criticism. They're probably plenty aware of flaws. They're used to seeing their art objectively and can tell the difference between trolls and lazy critics. A newer artist might not. If they've just started posting, they might be aware that, there are rude people and trolls on the internet. But they might not be able to view those comments objectively with respect to their artwork. Now, obviously, we don't want to coddle everyone, but if they wanted critique, they would have asked for it. And these people coming in there with their half-ass comments are just annoying at best and destructive at worst. Newer artists can tell that they haven't reached a certain level of expertise, and they're just proud they've picked up a skill and they're doing something with it. Quite frankly, a stranger telling another stranger what they should be doing with their artwork is pretentious and conceited. Acting like you know what somebody's goals are just because they're posting their art online, and then you go and tell them how they should get better, what they need to do if they want their art to be respected, is just presumptuous. Not every artist is constantly trying to improve. I would argue that no artist is constantly trying to improve. That takes a lot of time and energy and effort. And sometimes you need to take a break in between all your anatomy and gesture drawing and color theory studies to draw some shitposty fan art. You need to have fun and use your art for what you want to use it for. It's not all work. Art is play. Art is expressive. Art is you. Okay? You can't just spend all your time working on studies and not do anything fun, not work towards your goal. Because the fun stuff, it's also part of becoming an artist. It's part of the improvement process. It shows you how much you really understand about your craft. So it might feel like play, but it's still work, okay? It keeps you from getting bored or just starting to hate doing art. You don't want to accidentally train yourself to fixate on flaws. As artists, we should try to learn to see the flaws, but don't fixate on them. Sometimes it's good to just let them go. Unsolicited criticism seldom comes from a place of wanting to help people. It just stinks of, oh, you're just not very good. Even if it's not being stated outright, that's how it comes across. It's just a way to poke at someone's art skills under the guise of friendliness and concern for the artist. It's not unlike someone constantly saying, you should lose weight, or telling them, oh, you better wear a wig until that ugly haircut grows out. Like, maybe they're already working out more. Maybe they don't want to lose weight. Maybe they did their hair themselves because it was fun and it will grow back. Why do you care? This is a simple case of nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all unless I asked you for an honest opinion. It's consent. It's consent, people. There are so many people who I bet are the ones who leave these kinds of comments. Think that an artist should just take it. Just grow a thicker skin and accept that it's gonna happen because there are mean people out there and you should expect this critique. No, I don't think anybody has to do that. I do agree that there are mean people out there and it's going to happen. And you should expect that. But I would wager, nowadays, most people online are aware that you're gonna get a bunch of randos on occasion that don't like you or don't like your work. You know, that comes with the territory. We already know this. But that's not what unwanted criticism is really about, right? It's this presumption that all artists are always trying to get better, or just passive aggressively saying, ew, I don't like this art. Ew, why can't you take my criticism? And it's just tiring. It's annoying. That's why artists don't like it. It's a constant barrage of pointing out things that, one, they've probably been pointed out before. Two, it's probably been pointed out by the artists themselves. You know, they did the art themselves. They know where they can improve. Why are you giving a bare minimum basal level of critique? If you can't build on it, maybe just put it in your pocket for later, okay? Like, I have a feeling that people who give these kinds of comments just expect artists to take it all the time. And it's just, I get it. Art, again, is subjective. It makes artists very easy targets, you know? It's so subjective. There's so many genres and styles. It's very easy for you to find something you don't like. But again, I ask, if it's not your cup of tea, why you drinking it? Why don't you just put it down and leave the tea party that you weren't invited to? I'll never really understand what compels people to constantly point out flaws in anatomy or say something's ugly, tell the artist to change it because they're doing it wrong. It's exhausting. Some artists are able to roll their eyes and ignore it, but others aren't able to. So for my artists out there, yeah, be ready for the comments, but don't be afraid to let them know that their criticism isn't wanted. Of course we're going to get these comments by putting our work in a public space. We're already aware of that. But that's no reason to accept people's lack of manners. It's an unwritten rule for artists to not give critique unless it's asked for. And I think it's time to make it common sense for everybody. Whew, that was a long one for me. I think my vocal fry is coming out even harder now. If you watched the full video, thank you, and I really hope this was clear and it made sense. It just shed a light on why artists don't like getting unwanted critique, even to those who might be in the habit of giving critique when an artist wasn't looking for it. Just remember, there are people behind the posts, behind the Animu profile pics. You don't know their whole story. I truly didn't realize how much I had wanted to say about this just from a single interaction on TikTok. It's interesting. It is just baffling that there are people, artists and non-artists alike, who still think that we should just sit back and take it and just expect all these annoying comments. A bunch of metaphorical mosquitoes flying around. There's a line to draw. And I think basic manners should apply to all people in fields. Plain and simple. Keep arting and take no shit.